Paul Moehring. Yeah, you betcha. Yeah, you betcha. Paul Moehring.
Curious, how did your parents do as parents, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, Madam Contest Chair? Don't be too critical, because number 2 question is next. How are you doing as a parent? You know, it seemed so easy when we were about this tall, didn't it? Didn't seem like that tough of a job. The parenting scale goes from way down here with poor to okay to average to good to great. Then there's this huge jump that can be represented by a special word. That special word, mentorism. That's right, mentorism. Yes. Excuse me for just a moment. I've been a professor at Oxford University for over 30 years, and I can tell you that mentorism is simply not a word. It's poppycock and balderdash. Okay, Mr. Professor. Is poppycock a word? Just wait with me for a second, though. Let's say that it's Merriam and Webster's Friday afternoon. They decide to leave work early and head to the pub, and they forget to put mentorism in the dictionary. Could have happened. I don't know. But if you look at their dictionary, and up comes the definition of mentor, it's an experienced and prudent advisor. Oh, just doesn't cut it. We need more today. Mentorism is the act or state of being a mentor at the highest level. The highest level, whether you're a parent or a teacher or a coach or a neighbor or a relative, a friend, or even a stranger. Mentorism is needed and real. How can you work on your mentorism? Let me tell you how George and Sally did it. They were a couple that got married in southern Minnesota back in the 60s. Yeah, you betcha, Minnesota accent and all. They had 2 lovely children, Tammy and Jason, but they had a problem. They wanted more. When they talked before getting married, their lucky number was 4. They wanted more kids, but the doctor said, you're done. Seriously, you're done. Your pregnancies were so dangerous that we might lose you next time. Well, they heeded the doctor's warning, but they always had that little whisper of wanting more. Well, one day after church during fellowship hour, there was a representative from Lutheran Social Services that came in and gave a presentation. Specifically, she was talking about how difficult it was to place mixed race children, black and white, in the household these days. These days being the 1960s. You remember the 1960s, correct? Civil rights movement. There were race riots in major cities across the country. Well, George and Sally took that brochure home with them and read it and went to bed. Over the next few days, however, they started batting around the idea, and they were asking each other questions, and they said, why don't we just apply and see what happens? So they went through the application process, and 3 weeks later, they got a letter in the mail that said, you are approved. Oh my goodness, you're approved. You can adopt a child. You wanted 4, this is 3. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness, they were so excited, but they had sleepless nights. They were just beside themselves. They went to talk to their parents. They jumped in the car, drove down there, and their parents were 100% against the idea. Both sets of parents. They were afraid for those kids. Back then, they said, have you been watching the telly? Have you been watching the black and white console here? There's race riots in Detroit. There are race riots in Chicago. There's even race riots in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We don't think it's a good idea at this time for you to do this. Well, George and Sally went home dejected. heartbroken. But over the next few days, their desire built to the level that said to themselves, we don't care about your resistance. We don't care about our own doubts and fears. We're going to adopt a child. So that day finally came. They jumped in the car. They were headed to St. Paul. They stopped on a butte that overlooked the Mississippi River before the last bridge that took them the rest of the way. And they sat in that car and they prayed and they cried and they cried and they prayed some more. And then they asked each other, can we really do this? They looked at each other and said, yeah, you betcha. And they drove across the bridge the rest of the way and picked up little Samuel, 6-month-old Samuel, who had a binky, a blankie, and some random clothes. And they swooped him up and took him home for their third child. It worked so well that 4 years later, they went back and picked up Rebecca Sue. Wow. Are you feeling this? Are you feeling this? Mentorism isn't just about being a parent. As I mentioned, it's about being a coach. It's about being a teacher. It's about being best at your vocation. It's reaching out to a stranger, a relative, a friend, and offering that help. I challenge you to adopt this word and bring it into your life. Because even though Merriam and Webster forgot to put it in their dictionary, the world can absolutely not have too much of it. Why am I so jazzed up about mentorism? Let me answer that with a riddle. Who has 2 thumbs and was adopted as George and Sally's 3rd kid? That's right. Samuel Paul Moehring. Are you serious? This story's about you? Yeah, you betcha, Madam Contest Chair.